A lighter day for the Bears as they prepare for the Bills to come to Hallis Hall tomorrow. The return of Mitch Trubisky. We're still going to break down what we saw, heard, everything from Lake Forest. Today, CHGO Bears starts right now. Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast, deep into training camp. CHGO training camp coverage, always powered by Circa Sports Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Adam Hoge alongside Greg Braggs Jr. today. We are harmless, so congrats to the haters today.
Congrats to us.
Well, yeah, if you're among the haters, which you are.
We don't say you. We are. We're in this together.
Okay, sure. I miss Carm already. Not really. We saw him this morning in a meeting. All right. Let's jump in. We had a lighter day at Hallis Hall. No pads today. Tomorrow is technically the last fully open practice of training camp already. There is one community day next week, but the Bills come to town tomorrow. I know we're all really excited about that. And joint practice. There are a ton of joint practices going on right now. It's hard to keep track of everything. I've been trying to follow it on Twitter today. But as we always like to do, we jump in with our best and worst of the day. Anything we saw, heard, whatever. Rags, I'll go to you first today. What was your best and worst?
Well, my best for practice today, which was a lighter practice, and we'll get into it. But Odunze, to me, everybody's kind of tried to figure out who's going to be wide receiver one on this team. I think it's clear, if there's any indication on what we've seen in training camp the last couple weeks, that Odunze will be wide receiver one for this team. You know, DJ Moore might be the veteran, might have gotten the big-time extension and the big-time money. But Caleb Williams and Odunze have had a connection dating back to last year. They've carried that over here into training camp within this new system under Ben Johnson. And you saw it again today, you know, continuing to go the last 2 days, really. And it finished off today in a 2-minute drill. Really, it was a 1-minute drill. And Caleb, on one of his first snaps, goes right. You know, Odunze's lined up outside the left hash mark. He runs about a 20-yard dig route. And it was honestly, you're not in pads, so I don't want to completely overstate because it wasn't the physicality that we've seen in the last couple weeks. But it was one of Caleb's best throws at camp. He threw this ball on a frozen rope in stride before Odunze had even come out of his break. And it was a bullet, and Rome comes down with it. Gets them already to the other side of the field, 25-yard gain. Then they get another completion right before the clock runs out. They get to the line of scrimmage, clock it with 1 second left, and we're able to, you know, set up for what would have been a field goal. Cairo Santos had the day off today, so they didn't kick it. But regardless, just really good execution in a 1-minute drill to end a game situation. And, you know, Odunze and Caleb Williams continue to show that chemistry and connection. And so I just think, you know, if we're looking for answers on what's definitely going to happen this season, I definitely think Odunze is going to have a big year.
Do you have a worst?
And my worst, you know, it was a pretty light day. You know, I would say my worst was Andrew Billings in coverage. There was a really funny moment at the end of practice where I saw the videos. Yeah, it was great. Where Ben Johnson had some fun with these guys at the end of practice, where you had Montez Sweat lined up on defense against Darnell Wright. Then you had Jonah Jackson lined up against Andrew Billings. That was my personal favorite of the three. And then you had Joe Tooney against Grady Jarrett. And if we ever have to depend on Andrew Billings in coverage, we're in trouble, because they ran a go route on Andrew, and he got completely smoked off the line of scrimmage. But Joe Thuney had some pretty good moves off the line of scrimmage as well, dusting Grady Jarrett. Antoine Randall all made Grady do push-ups after he got beat pretty badly on a little inside slant route by Joe Thuney, showing off the moves. So I'd be kind of picking nits or trying to really pull, scraping at the bottom of the barrel, try to come up with a worse for today. I mean, they didn't, with the Bills coming tomorrow, they didn't really, push too hard. It was an hour and a half practice. And I would say for the first hour, they did warm up, stretching, and very light work before they actually got into team drills.
All right. I'm going to go with my best being a video the Blackhawks actually put out after practice. The new head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks meeting the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. I think we have the video actually to show you, but Jeff Blashill was at practice today and was shaking hands with Ben Johnson. It was clearly they hadn't really met before. And they immediately got into, their living situations. And Blashill was like, yeah, I was actually, you can actually hear the audio, but he was like, I was in Detroit when you were there. I was the head coach of the Red Wings. It was like Ben Johnson, not a big hockey guy. I don't think he was aware of that, but it was a cool moment between two of the head coaches. Maybe we don't have the video. I thought we had it, but just, these are two teams, arrow pointed up, two young head coaches, and it was a cool moment at the end of practice. So that was my best.
Ben, how are you, man? Doing great. How are you doing? Yeah, good. Yeah, just kind of. I'm just moved this time. What part? Yeah, just got some. My family's gonna stay in Tampa. I was in Tampa the last 3 years. Yeah. My family's gonna stay in Tampa. My daughter's graduating, so I'm just down here. So I was in Detroit when you were there, though. I was that Coach Red Wings. Yeah. For not the whole time, but for a little bit. We went to one game. My kids and I, and we went to a Blackhawks game too. Yeah. I'm trying to tell them, like, it's not normal that we get to sit in the suite. That's not real life, exactly.
So hopefully you can hear that on the podcast version. The audio is not fantastic, but that was my best. Worst is that I wasn't at practice today. Got a little bit of a bug going through my house right now, so played it on the safe side on a lighter day and did not go to practice today. So that was a bummer, because I like being at training camp, and any practice miss is not a good one. So I was relying on the intrepid reporting of Greg Braggs. I guess Adam Jahns too, but really,
thank you.
Braggs in the stands.
My new worst is that Mark Carmen's in the chat and won't, respect the vacation rules and stay away. And here he is harassing us, and we just can't get rid of him.
That is the most hypocritical. You are in the chat.
Do as I say, not as I do. All right. Number 2. And he didn't even put a super chat in. So, I at least contribute, monetarily back to the company. He's not doing that. He just wants to hear. So my new worst, now that Karma's here, is that, the day ended with a Tyson Bagent interception. He tried to force one in the seam in a 2-minute drill, and Josh Blackwell picked it off. And because Carm wasn't there, to, have
catch
that
the pass.
No, I just think that he really, helps Tyson Bagent's confidence as he runs out to the practice field every day, because of the love that Carm has for him, and he wasn't there for him today. And now Tyson's throwing picks without him, and that's on Carm.
Yeah, that does sound like Carm's fault. Another bad opportunity from Mark Carmen, by the way, dropping a pass from Bagent, this time in a wheelchair, trying to catch a football on what was a dime from the cornerback, and Carm just dropped it. So it's just one of these days he'll catch a pass from his guy. All right. So what matters most today, though, based on the reports, it sounds like Caleb Williams had another pretty strong day. So that is 2 days in a row. Yesterday with a couple drops factored in there, I had him over 80% on his passing, and so it was just to kind of track training camp. It started low. It was creeping on up. Then he had, just not a couple good days last weekend. So it went back down and now it's trending back up. So there's going to be ups and downs in training camp for sure. But I started the week talking about how big of a week this was going to be for Caleb Williams. And tomorrow will be the real test when the Bills come to town, right? And then certainly on Sunday, because it sounds like, well, now we know the starters will play in that game. But good start to the week in what is a big week. So we got to give him credit for that. It seems like the accuracy has been a little bit better. Hopefully that off day helped him because, like I said, Monday was bad. It just was. The accuracy was bad. And so I'm sure they had some tough conversations on the off day on Tuesday. We know Ben Johnson talks to Caleb on all these off days and they kind of review some things. So it's a good sign to see Caleb Williams bounce back these last couple of days and be much more on point because it sounds like it was another mostly accurate day for the starting quarterback.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And I know that you guys on Hoge and Jahns talked about how important this 3-day stretch was before the preseason game. Well, 2 of the 3, check. The offense did their job. And it doesn't need to be overstated. I know that the shortcomings or mistakes for fans feels like it is overstated, but we don't need to overcompensate then by overstating a day like today. When they didn't have a good day on Monday, where it was very light, you only have 36 players practicing the day after a preseason game, you're not in pads, and they don't look focused, the ball's hitting the ground way too much, that's unacceptable. But on a day like today, where it's very light, you're getting ready for the Bills tomorrow, it's an hour and a half practice that featured maybe 30 minutes of actual team drills, no pads. Well, this should be a clean day. That should just be the general expectation for a day like today. So it definitely was a step in, another stacked day of good days these last 2 days, but it also doesn't need to be overstated. They did their job. They didn't have any messy operations, no false starts today. And you're getting the ball out of your hands quickly in 7-on-7s and you're having clean operation. You're, executing your passes and the same targets continue to show their face. Olamide Zaccheaus with 2 catches early in team drills. Colston Loveland had a catch for a touchdown with Tyson Bagent at one point. And then Rome Odunze, as we highlighted earlier, and we're going to talk about here in a little bit, Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, that connection continues to grow. And so my favorite part of today probably was a moment in 7-on-7s after a couple quick completions. They get lined up, and all of a sudden Rome and DJ are kind of lined up in the slot, staggered off each other, and they're kind of having a debate. They weren't arguing or fighting, but you could tell there was some kind of a miscommunication. And DJ turned around and said, timeout. Like something wasn't right. So they pulled everybody back. They walked back up to the line of scrimmage, and that very next snap, just in rhythm, DJ's on the left side, working over to the right hash. Caleb throws it in stride for the easy touchdown in red zone 7-on-7. So to me, whatever they talked about when they came back, they were organized and they were ready for whatever they needed to get done. So you just saw a team today that executed the way they should on a light day of practice.
Yeah, it's just it's a good start for this little important chunk, and hopefully that the pre-snap stuff improves. Sounds like it was better today than yesterday, because yesterday that was yesterday the execution post-snap wasn't really the issue. It was just all the false starts, and that blame we talked about in yesterday's show was kind of shared between the first team, second team, and third team. So good sign. Now I want to bring up to the left tackle rotation, because it sounds like it was very similar to what we saw yesterday. That it was Braxton Jones, Theo Benedict splitting the time, and then Ozzie Trapillo was with the 2s at right tackle. Karan Amagashi, kind of that third guy still in the left tackle competition. And then that was a little notable. Some reporters were asking Jonah Jackson about the left tackle battle and his perspective on it being the right guard. And he was like, I don't know. It's all happening over there. I'm lining up next to the same 2 guys for the most part. But he's like, those 3 guys are doing a pretty good job, and I guess it's 4 now. So he kind of let that slip too. It's like, I mean, just adding a little bit more credence. Theo Benedict getting 2 days in a row with significant first team reps. That's got to be. I mean, that's something.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I also think it definitely is. And, you're seeing, whether it's, I guess we're going to find out tomorrow and Sunday. Is this the coaching staff throwing Theo Benedict a bone because of how well he's played the last couple weeks? And they're just trying to get some different looks and they're challenging some of the vets like Braxton and Darnell? Or is this something where they're really putting him into the conversation because they're not seeing enough from Braxton and Ozzy Trapillo? I think the other notable thing from today was you saw during walkthroughs Braxton Jones lining up at right tackle for some reps. I think they're trying to get some different looks and see what they have in these. I don't believe Braxton ever lined up at right tackle in any of the team drills, but I know that he did during walkthroughs. So, it'll be interesting to see how things play out tomorrow against the Bills and then in the preseason game on Sunday night.
Real quick before we hit a break, what's your level of concern with the left tackle spot right now?
Well, I'm very concerned because it seems to me that they're going to give this job to Braxton Jones. I think the only way Braxton loses it now at this point is if he puts on another showing on Sunday night in the preseason game like he did last Sunday, where he lets a guy through that's a second year undrafted free agent type of player. It doesn't even have to be a second year. It could be a starter. But if you let a guy through like that, like he did last Sunday on that 4th down touchdown pass by Tyson Bagent, I think then they might have no choice but to then maybe pivot back to Ozzy Trapillo. But at this point, I think they'd prefer to have 5 vets go across that offensive line.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm with you. I'm worried too. Because, and I see Gary in the comments saying 8.5 out of 10. I'm probably right there with you, Gary, because no, I think the good news is I don't think we're in a situation where it's going to be a complete disaster in the regular season, because at least Braxton Jones has experience. He's been there. He's held his own. We've compared it to Charles Leno sometimes, right? Where it's just, you don't have your cornerstone left tackle, but you have a guy who's serviceable. That being said, that serviceable guy is still coming back from an injury. So it does open the door to it not being as good as it was before. Meanwhile, what this line has been in the past has been not good enough. So we're running out of time here. That's where my concern level's getting amped up here too. So tomorrow, joint practice versus the Bills. Sunday, game against the Bills. They have 2 practices next week. Only 2. And I know for sure both of them won't be padded. One might. I don't know. It might, maybe neither. And then they play on Friday night against the Chiefs. Now, I'm not saying that you can't evaluate anything after that, but that Chiefs game, Greg, is a week from tomorrow. So we got like a week to figure this out for real. There's 3 practices the week after the Chiefs game, and then they're in week 1. And there's a lot of time off in there with the next weekend after the Chiefs game and Labor Day weekend. They're going to get the players are going to get a lot of days off. So, they would like to have this thing figured out by the end of that Chiefs game next week. And we're talking about 8 days. And it doesn't seem like they've made a lot of progress in this competition.
Yeah. And that's why I agree with the concern. I mean, I've said it. I said it yesterday, and this isn't a disrespect to Braxton. I just don't have much faith with him at left tackle. And I really didn't, even if he hadn't had the injury. We were all looking for an upgrade at left tackle. Now, they upgraded the entire interior offensive line, and they didn't have, the chips fall where they could have at the number 10 pick. And so they ended up taking Colson Loveland because you had 3 left tackles go before him, or else maybe they drafted a left tackle in that spot. It just didn't work out that way. And you can make the argument that they could have looked at some other options in the draft earlier. So you go with Ozzy Trapillo, and I thought he was going to take this job, and apparently he's either hasn't or he's just simply not ready for it, and that's fine. I can accept that, even with my Ozzy Trapillo agenda that I tried to push. That doesn't change the fact that I don't have much faith in Braxton Jones at left tackle, and then you add in the fact that he isn't fully healthy, and that makes it even less of a confidence meter for me there. So I'm just really curious to see how he responds to what Dan Rochar said yesterday and how he approaches tomorrow and then Sunday night's preseason game.
All right, we'll take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper into a more positive conversation, and that is last year's first-round pick. No, not the quarterback, the other one who might be poised to have a really big second season in the NFL. Adam Jahns is going to join us in about 10 minutes, too, to get his perspective from practice and everything going on this week. So don't go anywhere. Got a lot coming up here on CHGO. But first,
Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer while it's still here. It's a one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside has an expertly curated menu with over 100 different strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Locations all over Illinois, from the city in Wrigleyville to the suburbs in Champaign. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 or older or Illinois medical card holders. For existing users, use the promo code CHGO50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item.
and we legitimately love training camp here. It's become a big part of our summers, but you know, when you're out there at camp, you got to be calm, cool, comfortable, stylish. And that's why we are excited that Mack Weldon is on board with us now at CHGO, because their new tech linen line combines the easy charm of classic linen with cool Mack's technology. You can explore their shirts, shorts, hoodies, and more at MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order with code CHGO. Just, earlier this week, got my new pair of Ace sweatshorts. I think I wore them to camp 2 days in a row right away because they're so comfortable and they keep me cool at the same time. Mack Weldon's not flashy, just classic, always in style, and made from the world's most comfortable performance material. So go check them out. Get breathable clothes that you can feel comfortable in all summer long. Go to MackWeldon.com. Get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code CHGO. That's MackWeldon.com, promo code CHGO.
You're muted. You are muted there, Mr. Hoge.
3, 2, 1. I'm back. Hey, I see we got a big super chat from Motor Music Michael. We'll get to that in a second. Appreciate that big money. Super good question. We will get to it. But first, we got to take the temp. Your trusted local experts are Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. And the question is, so we take the temp on Rome Odunze going into year 2. Is he set up for a 1,000-yard season? And I know Steven looked up Steven, do you have there it is, the Circus Sports prop bet on Rome Odunze's total regular season receiving yards going over or under 850.5 yards. Greg, based on what we've seen, I got to agree with you. I mean, I would like to hear a little bit more about your definition of what the number one receiver is, because there's a difference between, does he start playing the X receiver spot more? Well, that's a pretty good indication of how the Bears would view him in that spot as they move DJ Moore around. But right now, that's not necessarily the case. Is it just about how many targets? Is it just a matter of, who it kind of appears is the best receiver on the team? I mean, I'm not closing the door to that. I'm not also going to come out here and be like, oh, that's definitely how this is going to play out. But Rome is having a good camp. He is steady. It's just, you almost notice, like I brought up DJ Moore yesterday. Like he had a rough couple days where he just didn't make a couple catches. Like Rome catches everything.
Yep.
And he just seems to be a consummate pro all the time. So it's very encouraging what we've seen from him in this camp. I would take the over right now based on what I've seen in camp.
Yeah, I would say how I define who the number one wide receiver on this team is based off of where is Caleb's eyes going, and he is more times than not, especially in a pinch, in those gotta have it downs. I think eventually Luther Burden will be a type of guy that you're really looking to on third down. He just seems to have the craftiness to get open in those crucial downs and distances. But for right now, while Olamide Zaccheaus seems to be ahead of Luther Burden in terms of that role, Rome Odunze to me is that guy for Caleb Williams. We always talk about security blankets with the tight ends. And everybody's like, oh, well, Colston Loveland is going to be a good security blanket for Caleb Williams. Well, maybe eventually. And I'd be really excited to see him, burst onto the scene the way, Brock Bowers or Sam Laporta have the last few years. But I also think that we have to be fair to, Colston Loveland's, how he's going to adapt to the NFL and going up against NFL defenses. But I know Rome Odunze is going to be there as a security blanket for Caleb Williams.
I'll give you a big reason, just like kind of more mathematically even, why I think he'll go over that 850 number. So he had 734 receiving yards last year.
Mm-hmm.
Only 54 catches, which I don't know, before the season for a rookie, he was a top 10 pick. I think you probably would have hoped that would be over 60, but he got, somewhere in the ballpark of that. He had 101 targets though. Like, think about that. And I think that's an indication of how disjointed the offense was at times. Like, the ball had to go somewhere. So he got 101 targets, but only 54 catches. I think Ben Johnson alone, that effect will increase that success rate of those targets turning into catches, which will naturally, you got to cover what? Basically 120 more yards, a little bit less than that to get to that 850 from what he did his rookie year. I think that happens. I think that's a pretty good bet.
And what did Antoine Randall say yesterday when Mark Carman, our intrepid reporter, asked him, like, what is he like most about Rome? He said his route running. And that, when you look at last year and how rough of a year that was for everybody, that showed up on tape. Rome Odunze might not always got the ball, but he consistently showed on tape how good of a route runner he is. In fact, how great of a route runner he can be. And that's not even adding in what he came out of college as his top tool, which was that, go up and get it 50-50 ball guy. So he has the 50-50 ball capability. You saw that last week when they were doing one-on-ones in the red zone, and Rome Odunze completely skies over Kyler Gordon and brings it back and lets Kyler Gordon know right in front of Ryan Poles. That was a great moment at camp. So, he's got the red zone capability with the 50-50 ball and the size that he has, but he's also got the precision route running. So in between the 20s where he's going to really move the chains like he did today in the 1 minute drill. And then if you look at last year, the one thing that I think Caleb Williams found through the mess of last year was when they had to have it on third down, they were going to Rome Odunze, and more than a few times they were doing the back shoulder fade, which is one of the highest degree of difficulty throws it takes years for guys like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams to build that chemistry, to go to that play consistently. And they were starting to find their groove with that throw last year. Specifically, if you remember in the Green Bay Packers game at Soldier Field, it's fourth down. It's make this throw or go home. And they picked one of the hardest throws you could possibly have to execute, and they nailed it. It was perfect. And they went to that a few more times as the season went on. And so I just think they're carrying that momentum over, and they're both, in their second year, so a little more comfortable with the league, and, going through a second training camp where they're not this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed rookie. I think they're both just ready to really take that chemistry to the next level.
I'm impressed with your recall of certain moments of last season, because I blacked out and forgot a lot of things that happened during that 10-game losing streak.
Well, I was actually at that game with Big Dave from CHGO Bulls, and we were there. Compliments of Game Time. Shout out to Game Time. And so we were down. I had the perfect sight line to that throw, and to watch Caleb let that ball out of his hands before Rome had even made his turn. It was just such a nice play and that's the one thing about Caleb. Like, I know they're still trying to work on in structure and things, but when in those kind of moments where you just kind of have to black out and make a play, like Caleb makes plays. And Rome, obviously was somebody that he leaned on. And you're already seeing that again here in this training camp. So I am very confident that Rome's going to have a big year. I'm excited to talk to Jahns about it. I think the other aspect of this too is, people keep asking about DJ Moore. I'm not going to sit here and like sound off alarms like DJ's not going to have a good year or that he's had a bad camp or anything of that nature. But I do think it's fair to say he's not getting that many balls here at camp. You're seeing the majority of the balls go to Rome Odunze and Olamide Zaccheaus if they're not going to the tight ends, who are kind of being thrown between first and second team. DJ does get balls today. He had one in 7-on-7 for a touchdown. But at least from my count, and maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, Jahns, when he comes in, but it does feel like that DJ is kind of getting pushed down the ladder in terms of who Caleb looks to throw to.
Yeah, well, like yesterday, for example, he only had one target in team drills from what I saw, and it was that one drop that we discussed. We will bring in Adam Jahns here coming up next. We're getting his take on that and a lot of other things, including the left tackle competition. It's all coming up. Don't go anywhere. But first,
hey, listen, guys, workplace stress is now one of the top causes of declining mental health, with 61% of the global workforce experiencing higher than normal levels of stress. And if you're working with Mark Carman, you know all about that. So to battle the stress, most of us can't wave goodbye to work, but we can start small with a focus on wellness. Holidays are great, but it isn't a long-term solution to stress. Don't forget that therapy can help you navigate whatever challenges the workday or any day might bring. And BetterHelp is one of those things that can help you kind of navigate through these things. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an App Store rating of a 4.9 out of 5 based on over 7 million client reviews. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/CHGO. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/CHGO.
And whatever the sport, the app to bet, it's Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, sports betting the way it should be. They've been an awesome partner of ours here at CHGO. And Circa Sports Illinois, they have high betting limits, low holds, exceptional customer service. You can bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circa Sports has it. We're always giving those to you on the show as our training camp sponsor. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. We told you about that Rome Odunze situation earlier on. You can get props like that on all the Bears players. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Go check out Circa Sports Illinois. All right, let's bring in our guy, Adam Jahns, as we keep things rolling here on CHGO Bears. He was there today. He is getting his camera fitted perfectly around his Ozzy Trapillo head. Welcome in, buddy.
What's going on, fellas? Jahns has to get. He's got to get going. He's got to get working.
Yeah, right. He's now the right tackle, I guess, on the backups.
Second team right tackle. How stories change so quickly in training camp.
Do you? What is your read on the? Sorry, what is your read on the somewhat weird rotation we've seen the last couple days?
Well, it all started with Ben Johnson before the preseason game, where he promised that Theo Benedict would get. Am I even saying this right? Theo Benedict would get a look at left tackle, and I'm not sure some of us really believe to what extent that would mean, but what we saw in the preseason game was Trapillo coming in for Braxton Jones, and then Theo Benedict coming in, and then Trapillo coming in to finish the game. So my read on it is it's a couple of things. I think there's a lot of different ways you could take this. Is they're obviously not happy with Braxton Jones and Ozzy Trapillo, probably more so Ozzy Trapillo because now he's on the right side. I have not seen him on the left side for the past couple days. Correct me if I'm wrong, Braggs, but the past couple days, Ozzy Chapello has only been at right tackle with the second team. On the left side, you have Braxton Jones and Theo Benedict kind of rotating with Karan Amagaji, now your third team left tackle. So I think that's your competition right now. It's the veteran incumbent versus the Canadian Eagle. This is the competition at left tackle. I'm not sure what needs to happen from Ozzy Chapello to reinsert himself in the competition right now either.
It just kind of blows my mind that is where it turned, considering he was getting the majority of the first team left tackle reps as Braxton was rehabbing or coming back from his injury. And it's just like, man, what changed where you go through all of minicamp and OTAs and you go through the majority of training camp here so far, playing him at first string left tackle, not just left tackle, like second string or first team left tackle, to now moving him completely off of that to second team right tackle. If that's what happened and they're not just like Hoge, kind of brought up yesterday, like, hey, if Darnell Wright gets hurt, who would you want to play right tackle? I think the first name probably would be Ozzy Chapello. That part made sense to me. But to sit here and say, nope, now they're moving completely off of this, like that just feels like a huge waste of time then for this whole summer, if that's what is happening.
And we've covered some wastes of time, Adam, right, at training camp. Look, I don't know if I'm going that far yet because training camp isn't over. You still have the Bills practice. But to your point, Greg, like I don't think they're wasting reps. Like this is a real thing. They're just not doing this to motivate the second round pick. It's a real thing. It's a real competition. They're not going to sit here and waste reps this far in the training camp with this left tackle competition. They're rewarding the Canadian Eagle for what he's done in practice. They're seeing something that many of us were probably ignoring because we were focusing too much on Braxton Jones getting up to full speed, getting up to full strength. And we're looking at Ozzy Chapello, big number 75, seemingly looking the part out there. But you know what? They have the tape. They could see things that we're missing. Maybe something's going on in the run game because that could be hard to evaluate for a lot of us because we could see what happens in pass protection. We could see if the left tackle is losing, but we can't really tell which blocks they're missing in the run game. And I know Ben Johnson is on record saying it's the one-on-one pass protection that needs to be the point of emphasis. That's what's going to win the left tackle competition right now. But if the run game is going to be an important part of this offense as well, and we all believe it will be, maybe we're missing something there. Maybe that's where Braxton Jones is still better. Maybe that's where the Canadian Eagle is separating himself, at left tackle, maybe at right tackle a little bit to earn these reps with the starters.
Johns,
but that's just such a huge indictment on Braxton Jones too, though, that now Ozzy's pushed out of the competition and now you're splitting reps with Theo Benedict, who's come out of nowhere here.
Yeah.
The whole thing is kind of baffling to me.
And we've covered some interesting camp competitions. Like we'll never forget the kicking competition. So to see Theo Benedict like enter this late, I'll be honest, it's a bit surprising, but they got 2 preseason games and a lot of game prep left to figure this out. Like part of me still feels like when week 1 happens, when we watch the Bears take the field against the Minnesota Vikings, number 70 is going to be the left tackle. I think that's just the safer bet, but it still strikes you to see in the situational drills to end practice today that the starting left tackle is Theo Benedict, who was a third teamer not too long ago.
Yeah. Now the on that end of it though, yesterday Braxton got that series, so maybe they're just switching up who gets that opportunity. But I'm going to ask you the same question, John, I asked Braggs earlier in the show. What is your concern level about this left tackle situation? Because we're running out of practices. They're running out of reps. You'd think they want to get this figured out by that Chiefs game. That's in a week.
And how often do you hear, offensive line coaches, offensive coordinators, the linemen themselves talking about finding that chemistry amongst the 5? And there's one immensely valuable piece missing in this equation, and that's the left tackle. It's one of the most valuable positions in all sports. It really is, the blind side protector for your quarterback. And the Bears are trying to sort this out halfway through training camp. The other 4 spots are solidified. You can feel good about what's going on with Tooney, Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and Darnell Wright when he's not tired right at him. But yeah, again, halfway through camp, you could be looking for that panic button a little bit, but who knows? If Braxton Jones continues to return the form, I think I'd feel good about that being your starting offensive line, at least to start the year, while you try to figure out what's going on with Benedict and Trapillo kind of behind him.
So real quick, when Dan Rochar said to the media, on the side session yesterday speaking, and he said, I thought Braxton had a really good joint practice last Friday against the Dolphins, and then then he goes back to whatever that was on Sunday on the preseason game last week. So just from a hypothetical situation, let's say Braxton Jones goes back to whatever that was here on Sunday night. Well, does Braxton lose this job somewhere out of nowhere? I know you're saying it sounds like Braxton's the safe bet, and I agree, but is there a scenario if he continues to make glaring mistakes like he did last week on that 4th down play that then they pivot off of Braxton Jones?
If that's what we get against the Bills in the preseason game, then yes, because I think you have the expectations set a little bit higher for Braxton Jones, just given his experience. At least that's how I would evaluate it. Now, you have to take into account his fitness levels, his strength in his right leg, the imbalance he might have because he's been favoring his right leg for so long because his left leg needed to be rehabbed. Like, those are real things the Bears have to take into account. And if he can't get to where you need him to be physically, then I think that answers your competition over. Your winner is Theo Benedict, right? But do you need Ozzie Trapillo to enter this conversation? Like I get that some of this is a shot at Ozzie Trapillo. It is a motivation at Ozzie Trapillo, and you want to see how he responds to this. But like Adam just said, the reps now become extremely limited at this point because next week's a condensed week. You have the preseason game on Friday, and then after that, you're full speed into game reps. So this next really week starting tomorrow, I mean, this could be it for the left tackle competition.
Well, I'm going to just make a prediction now based on what we've seen in camp. I think, call it the first 5 games, whatever, I think we're going to see different starting left tackles. I think this is
throughout the season.
Yeah, I just think this is going to carry into the regular season because nobody's seized it at this point. We're running out of days. We're running out of reps. I want to move the conversation, though, back to the quarterback. Jahns, we discussed on Hoge and Jahns that this was a big week for Kale. It was a big 3-day stretch, which now we got to turn into 4 days because he's going to play in the game, which we expected, and then Ben Johnson confirmed. It seems like these first 2 practices of this chunk have turned in his favor. They've been better. They've been good. So what do you make of the last 2 days really for Caleb Williams, and then tomorrow's big challenge against the Bills?
Well, I think that's the better gauge of things. Like today was fine. Like the end of game situation, we're tracking it, and he'll make a completion. Then they're actually moving it up 10 more yards. It's like it seemed like there were some specific plays that Ben Johnson wanted to get through. Like they went from, what was it, like the 20 to the 36 within one play, and there's only one completion in there. And I'm telling you, it didn't go for 16 yards. So I guess I just have some questions about what the plan was for that. And the game situation looks like they wanted to get to some very specific things, but he was good in the red zone. I won't lie. The 7-on-7, good in the red zone. A good pass to DJ Moore in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Although there was a flag called, I think, for the legal procedure. I don't think they had enough guys in the line of scrimmage. So that's not good. So that would have been waved off, even though they moved on in the drill. I need to see it. Like today was good. Today was fine. Fine, like helmets and shells. Well, let's just call it what it was. Tomorrow, against a full speed opponent that's coming to your practice field, that's one of the best teams in the AFC. Now that's where I want to see Caleb Williams have success in a red zone drill. Like, can he do well in that situation? Can he handle a different look against different defenders? Like, this should be getting better for Caleb Williams against his own teammates. He's played against them for weeks now. So let's see how he does against the Bills. I'm just trying to keep an expectation level higher for the first overall pick playing for Ben Johnson at this point. You want to see him stack good days? Yes, he's had that. Now let's see him take it to another level against the Buffalo Bills when they come to practice on Friday.
John Z, it was well documented that the Dolphins beat writers didn't want tackling last Friday in the joint practice, and obviously the Bears had other ideas, and I know Brisker was asked about it, and DA was really dialing those guys up to practice a certain way, and maybe the Dolphins and Bears weren't on the same page. Maybe they were, I don't know. But what is your expectation going into tomorrow, knowing now that the starters are going to play on Sunday? Is it going to be the same kind of process we saw last Friday against the Dolphins in joint practice, or will it be a little bit of a change because of the consideration for Sunday night?
Well, I think the one thing they did with the Dolphins practice is that they gave Caleb Williams and the starters across the board, both sides of the ball, more reps, and maybe that's just 5 or 6 for some guys. Some guys it could be 10. I would expect that more reserves sneak into that conversation where maybe 5 reps are taken away from a TJ Edwards and you see more of a Ruben Hippolyte, for example. Like, I could see that coming to fruition against the Bills. But at the same time, the Dolphins still played their starters against the Bears. That didn't change their process. They practiced their ones against the Bears ones, and they still played in the preseason game. Now, that was just one series, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what Ben Johnson has to say before practice, right? He's speaking tomorrow, pre-practice, to hear what the plan is, because I would imagine that they would reserve some of those snaps, some of those reps for the preseason game. But at the same time, as Adam said earlier, reps are a bit limited at this moment.
Yeah, I think tomorrow will be telling for a number of different reasons. We're going to have to pay close attention to who's getting what reps, especially on that offensive line. Go ahead, Johnson.
You know what I would do, though? Like, I would still play the starters more because
I would too.
This offense isn't ready, guys. It's just not. You have a left tackle competition that needs to play out. You need chemistry that needs to be built up front. You need a run game that needs to get going without Roschon Johnson in some short yardage situations. You have receivers learning new spots. You have a rookie tight end, a rookie receiver, and you need a quarterback who needs every opportunity that he could get to improve, to find comfort, to find his rhythm, to get his eyes right, to speed up his process. So I would still go full steam ahead with the starters. That's what I would do, but I'm not sure Ben Johnson's going to have the same game plan as me.
I want to throw this super chat up while Johns is on. Motor Music Michael came in big with a $50 question, similar to what my prediction a couple minutes ago was, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this too. So Motor Music Michael, $50 super chat, says, hey, say there are no injuries. Do you guys believe the offensive line will be the same all season long? The coverage has been awesome. Great work, guys.
Let me go first. I would say no. No, just getting to know Ben Johnson. If he's not happy with the way you're handling things, and if he thinks there's an improving option behind you, and he's seeing that in practice, then I think he would make a lot of changes. This applies to skill positions too. Like I think Ben Johnson just operates that way. If he believes he could get better out of someone else, I think you might see that, even if you have no injuries up front.
So I guess my question is, because yesterday Ben Johnson kind of echoed what he said to start training camp, where he said, we haven't really found what our concrete identity is. We don't know if we're going to be an outside zone or a gap scheme run team. We don't know if we're going to be under center or a shotgun team. And so I think there's two sides of this coin. He talked with David Kaplan and Jay Hood this morning as well, and spoke to this question. And so he said, like, hey, I'm going to adjust a certain way the first 4 weeks, and then we'll see where we're at in the bye week. So there's two sides of this coin, and I want to know which side you fall on. Is it concerning that they don't really know what their identity is going to be here in these first 4 weeks? Or is that a good thing because Ben Johnson is so, can adapt to what the team needs, and now they're going to be harder to game plan against is like my rationalization of that. I'm like just trying to get used to a head coach that isn't so concrete in his system like we've been used to in the past. Now we've got this guy in here that's like, I don't have a system. We're going to figure it out as we go along.
Right. His system draws from a lot of different influences too. I think Ben Johnson knows what he wants his identity of this team to be. Physical, aggressive, in your face running game. I think he's just trying to figure out schematically what works best to get there. And that applies to the aggressive passing game he wants to install. Like, can Caleb Williams handle the play action stuff I want to do? And if not, then I got to remove that from, after the first 4 weeks. So I kind of appreciate the tactics here where like he will be flexible. He will be experimenting even heading into the regular season. And I think that's okay. But I always find like the conversation about an identity, like, I don't know, you could take it so many different ways, but I think if you asked him, he would give you a clear, concise answer of what he wants this team to be, like what he believes he wants it to be, but how he gets to that point, that physical, in your face, aggressive attack. I think that's what he's trying to figure out. Like, what plays will get me this identity that I want.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about this until it's year 3 and Matt Nagy's up there going, I still don't know what the identity of the offense is. So, before they've played a game, I think it's just a sign of his willingness to play to the strengths of his players. And I think it's a good thing that he comes from a tree where, as John said off the top of that answer, he pulls from a lot of different things. This is not just a narrow-minded, we're trying to run the Chiefs stuff here in Chicago with players who aren't as good.
Or Mike Martz showing up and saying, I can't use Greg Olsen. Bring me Brandon Manu Maleuna.
Right.
Yes, not happening.
Exactly. So
but
I think
to that point, when Mike Martz did that, we all lost it, rightfully so. Greg Olsen was a super talented player, but the offense did get very good under Mike Martz, under his very specific system, much to the chagrin of Jay Cutler, who once told Mike Martz F you on Monday Night Football as he made him do a 7-step drop for the 8th time while he got his head ripped off. But that, like, there's so many coaches in the league that are like that, where this is my system, this is how we run it, be damned what the personnel is. And Ben is just not like that at all. So I've never really seen that here in Chicago. So to get used to that is an adjustment.
I think this is a great point to bring in the DJ Moore, Rome Odunze conversation that you guys were having before I joined the show. Sometimes, guys, it's not plays, it's players. You talk to a lot of these offensive minds, and that's their core belief. Like, if you had to sum it all up, it's players first, and then the plays that come after it. I think that's why I think you're seeing DJ Moore at running back occasionally. Like, he had that big drop in the middle. Adam, right? We marked it. What's the next play? A run to DJ Moore up the middle.
Yeah.
And that's just a simple example of getting the ball in the hands of your best darn football players. And that's the tough part about Ben Johnson's job. Like today, like on the field in the red zone, he had this awesome personnel grouping where he had at receiver Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, DeAndre Swift in the backfield, and Colston Loveland as his tight end. Like in the red zone, that is a lot of problems for a defense. That's a lot of mismatch problems. So that's the good problem, like that Ben Johnson has. You still got Cole Kmet in the sidelines. You got OZ on the sidelines. You got guys who have made plays throughout camp. They're not even on the field. So to revisit again what you said about Odunze and Moore and the Mike Martz problem and all this, I think Ben Johnson is a guy who believes in players first and the plays that come with it second. Like, he'll build plays around the players that he has. And I think we've seen examples of that throughout training camp.
All right, last more fun question, and I'm curious about what our chat thinks too. How much do people care about Mitch Trubisky coming back to Hallis Hall tomorrow? Because I kind of do. I kind of think it's a cool wrinkle. And here's my personal thought. Like, I don't look back at Mitch Trubisky with any types of angst or anything. Like, I think he got put in a tough spot where he was overdrafted, not put in the best position to always have success, still managed to have, he was the quarterback of a pretty special 2018 season. And he's found a nice little spot in the league to be a backup in this league for a long, long time. I'm just kind of curious where everybody stands on that.
What was his last year? 2020, 2021?
2020.
So there's another quarterback drafted in there.
Isn't that crazy?
Justin Fields.
The Fields era went by like a blink of the eye to me.
Yeah, it did. Mitch Trubisky, I mean, the best way to remember him, I know he's become kind of like a punchline, and I think that's always been an unfair way to view his tenure here. His record's, 29 and 21 as a Bears quarterback? Like, he put Cody Parkey in position to beat the Eagles in the playoffs, but we got double doinked. Like, that's what we covered. Like, I would view it positively. Like, by the end of it, like, was he the quarterback that the Bears hoped he would be? No, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not. The Bears overdrafted. They selected the wrong guy. But I'm still of the opinion, like, if Patrick Mahomes was drafted here, we still might be talking about Caleb Williams right now. Like, that's just how things play out with this franchise, who have never gotten the quarterback right. Not only that, like, everything that goes around the quarterback.
Yeah, I think, yes, he had a winning record. Yes, they made the playoffs twice. And I always thought he carried himself the right way. I think people forget, in those middle years with John Fox, nobody was going to training camp. Those are some quiet days at Bourbonnais. Jimmy Clausen and whoever else they had out there, not good quarterback play, not good teams, and nobody that really cared, including Jay Cutler, who he already was don't care Jay. He was really don't care Jay during those. And then when Mitch and Eddie Jackson and Tariq Cohen and Tanner Gentry showed up to training camp in 2017, they kind of breathed some life into a dead organization for a minute. And so I'll always kind of remember those years. And obviously that's when I started barking up your guys' trees in terms of pretending like I was a reporter out in Bourbonnais. So I'll always remember those years fondly. But unfortunately for Mitch, he'll always be remembered for the guy that got taken over Patrick Mahomes. And so for Bears fans, we'll never escape that. And really, it'll take Caleb Williams a lot to do a lot for this organization for them to ever really escape it, because Mahomes ain't going anywhere. And so that's just the sad reality. So I think tomorrow it'll be interesting for us that have covered the team and seeing him at Hallis Hall, because this will be his first time coming to Hallis, somewhere that was his place of work. But I think the bigger thing, and I know he's already played the Bears in the preseason, but on Sunday night when he plays a lot of reps on the primetime stage, I think that'll be a pretty big storyline.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
I remember the training camp. We all thought, like, within a couple of weeks, that Mitch Trubisky was by far the best quarterback on that roster, with Mike Glennon and Mark Sanchez.
Right. And by the way, that wasn't wrong.
No. Oh, no. I'll never forget. There was a day in 2017, Mike Glennon threw 4 interceptions, and they were like, well, we're starting Mike Glennon for the start of the year. And if you thought I was an insufferable loudmouth now, you should have seen me back then yelling at anyone that would listen to please not start Mike Glennon. I have no patience.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting tomorrow with Mitch Trubisky back, and then obviously he'll play a decent amount on Sunday too. So a little sidebar to what more importantly, Caleb Williams' opportunity against the Bills this weekend. Johnsy, thanks for jumping on with us. Appreciate it. We'll see you at practice tomorrow.
See you, boys.
Adam Jahns. Make sure you're reading all this stuff. Become a die-hard. Awesome Antoine Randall story is up right now. $36 training camp offer. You can, once you become a diehard, or if you're already a diehard, you can use your 20% merch deal on anything, including the new Hoge Johns hat, which is out there. You also get to pick a free shirt when you sign up. So again, that's going on right now in training camp. $36 for your first year.
For every 52 diehards during this show right now, we will extend Mark Carmen's vacation by a week.
Wow. 50?
Yeah. We got to set the bar. I mean, where are we at with subscriber number? You know, Steven, if we hit 90,000 subscribers before the end of the week, we will make Mark take the rest of the month off.
Well, he's basically already.
I think he's already doing that. The rest of September off.
He's going home for like 2 days, and then he's going to the U.S. Open.
Get us to 90,000.
Yeah, 87,282. So we can get there. We can get to 90,000. All right, we got quickly toss to overtime. We got some more sound to share with you, though, from Alice today. Coming up next. All right, just a couple clips.
Pizzatol in the chat. Come on, guys, we can do this. He's rallying the troops.
Well, let's get to 90,000. We'll see Carm week 1. Not James says time to make 3,000 fake accounts. Oh my God. All right, just a couple quick clips. We're not going to go crazy like we did on yesterday's show, but a lot of good sound yesterday. Today, an unsung hero, maybe hero strong, an unsung player who quietly got extended in the offseason, and we probably did not give it the coverage that it deserved. Josh Blackwell does a lot of different things for this team. He is a core special teamer. He makes a lot of plays. He's also a pretty darn good backup nickel. And right now on the depth chart, he's in the mix to be the punt returner too. So Josh Blackwell does a lot of different things, and Richard Hightower was asked about Josh Blackwell today, and it seemed like a perfect opportunity to give him his due on this roster.
It's astronomical. I mean, his value is huge to me and to the rest of the team. I mean, he made plays on Sunday. He's made plays throughout his career. He's played at a Pro Bowl level. I mean, he got what he deserved, what the front office did for him, and he earned it. And now he's got to prove that he's worked it every single day is what I told him. Like, no, it's time to really work now, So, I mean, he's a problem for people. And every coordinator we play has a discussion about 39 and how good he is and where you got him from. How did your scouting department find him? How did we miss him? So we just got to keep him going. We're looking for more from him this year.
What do you appreciate most about him is just seeing his journey under your watch?
Yeah, I mean, just the kid. Like, it's not. I mean, you say under my watch, and I appreciate that. But like, I'm blessed to coach him. And he is a very cerebral player that sits in the front row, and he always trying to get better. He's always asking for tape of people with his stature, with his size, that moves that he can use to go out there and get better at. So I just appreciate the genuine love and passion that he has for the process. Like, I want players that love the process. And if you got guys like that and they got a little bit of talent, then it's our job to get them going.
I just thought that was worth sharing because you could hear very passionately from Richard Hightower how much he appreciates Josh Blackwell. And we don't always talk about guys that aren't, starters. So, I just thought that was worth sharing. Also heard it interesting. You got anything on that one, Greg?
We finished today with an interception. The final play, Tyson Bagent tried to throw one up the seam, and Josh Blackwell picked it off. And I just think really what speaks to Josh, obviously he's found his way in special teams, and it's not easy to carry over from one coaching staff to the other, especially when you're kind of a back end of the roster, special teams role player type of player, and get an extension in an offseason with a new coaching staff. So that speaks to his talent. But I just go back to a few years ago when the secondary was extremely thin, the defense was not very good, and you had a secondary of Josh Blackwell and a few others that were kind of no-name guys grinding, making life difficult. Go back, I believe it was the Bills and the Eagles that came to town back-to-back weeks. And the secondary really played pretty well, all things considered, against two of the top offenses in football at that time. This was years ago. And so he's just continued to, earn his keep here in Chicago. So, yeah, big Josh Blackwell fan.
Couple other nuggets from Hightower. He did say that Torrey Taylor, ideally, those punts that we were talking about on the post game on Sunday would have a little bit more hang time on them. From they were big long kicks, but you want to get a little more hang time to get your coverage team down there. Praise Cairo Santos for working on his leg strength and being able to kick farther field goals. That 57-yarder had great trajectory in that game the other day, so that was big. And obviously, it wasn't a phenomenal performance. Coach Hightower likes to use that word phenomenal. It was not a phenomenal performance by his special teams unit in that game, but he did acknowledge you had a lot of players out there getting out there really for the first time. And the other thing I will defend special teams, especially in the preseason, even in practice, you see all different types of combinations of players, and do not envy special teams coordinators in the middle of a preseason game having to figure out between the players who are sitting, not sitting, who gets hurt. They had a bunch of DBs go out in that game. There's 90 guys on the roster. Your depth charts are probably all over the place. I mean, I have to imagine at some point in those preseason games in the second half, and if this is not happening, credit to Richard Hightower for just being a great coach. But you got to be at the point where you're just like, hey, you go out on kickoff here and just run and try to go make a play, because it's really there's people don't realize there's 6 phases within special teams, and you have all those bodies and you're trying to figure it out during the preseason games. It's got to be wild.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this much, and I know that you weren't there today to, talk to Coach Hightower, and I know he's a big fan of our show, so we're always going to be very nice to him. But I need you to pass a message along that I need to see a lot more out of the special teams unit, or I am going to start going after him. I'll have no choice but to hold him.
Wait till week 1, please.
No, I need execution, Coach Hightower. I know you're watching. Last week, not good enough. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Well, my guess is he's not watching an hour and 6 minutes into the show because he's doing what you're asking him to do, which is get the unit playing better. Right. We'll see. I'm not that worried about it right now. All right, one quick audio clip. Jonah Jackson, interesting comment. Jonah Jackson didn't say a lot today, but he did have an interesting comment about the state of the running game and how it's kind of gotten better throughout camp.
I'd say it's more time on task. I mean, the system understandings, deuce is a deuce, a B is a B. But just building, knowing that I'm going to have to post up the inside and Darnell can drive through the near number and get some movement on Grady. And, these guys it's Grady Jarrett, it's Andrew Bellings, Javon Dexter, and all these guys. So it is going to be tough. And, most of the time they know what we're running at them. So, but granted, it's great for us. It's helped us out big time going against those guys.
Yeah, and there have been moments. I don't always put a ton of stock in the running game in these practices, but the fact that they've done more live tackling has helped. But even sometimes when they're not, there have been some moments where it's a clear crease and those running backs are running through untouched, and you're like, that's a legitimate run. So as much as we talk about Caleb and some of the struggles at times, just keep in mind that Ben Johnson might have a running game to lean on early on in the season as he tries to figure out what Caleb can and cannot handle. Now they got to get that left tackle situation figured out, though.
When everybody talks about run game, they just talk about the running backs. It doesn't feel like when fans talk about the run game that they talk about the offensive line elevating your running backs, which I think certainly can be the case. If Braxton can get anywhere close to what his normal relative health is, he's a good run blocker. His pass blocking, there's some left to be desired, but he's a good run blocker. And then the rest of these guys on the line, you have a lot of confidence in. I think yesterday was a good example of something you're talking about, Hoge, where, it wasn't this extremely physical live hitting practice, but there was a moment in yesterday's practice in pads where they pulled Drew Dahlman to the left side from the center position, and it opened up a huge crease for DeAndre Swift in a red zone 11-on-11s to get to the scamper to the end zone. So you're seeing some things there, and I think just the interior of that offensive line is going to be a big strength of theirs. And I think you're going to see, those offensive line in motion counters and things of that nature that are going to open some big holes for DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai.
All right, couple supers before we get out of here. Baldzilla 65, $20 super chat. We appreciate it. Says, I'll watch y'all's podcast every morning when I wake up here in Virginia. I appreciate your views and news. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Baldzilla. That's kind of the point of us doing these training camp pods every single day, so that's because we know you guys can't. Most fans can't be at practice. A lot of you guys don't even live anywhere near Chicago, and if we can keep you updated every single day on what's going on, we appreciate it. So hopefully I love hearing that's become part of your daily routine. Please hit that like button and subscribe for all of you guys that have not done that already. And then Gary jumping in here with $5. Hoge, what do you want me tracking for practice tomorrow? It's a great question, Greg.
Yeah.
I don't think Gary wants my answer because I'm going to be watching the offense again. And so I really need stuff tracked on the defensive side.
Well, Gary is a CHGO soldier. So if you ask him to do that, he's going to do it. I have a different strategy for tomorrow. I was on the defensive side for last Friday's practice. So if it's set up the same way, I'm going to wait for Hoge to drop some intel on fields 3 and 4, how they're going to divvy up where they're going to be. But once I get that figured out, I think I'm going to have a different strategy for tomorrow so I can have a better angle for both fields. But it's not easy. Fields, when they're on fields 3 and 4, you kind of have to pick and choose your vantage points. So it'll be interesting, but luckily we have a lot of guys on the scene for CHGO Bears. So we'll have eyes everywhere, including Gary. So Gary is, taking on the defensive responsibilities tomorrow. And that just shows you his dedication.
Well, in all seriousness, I wish I could watch watch Josh Allen and Mitch Trubisky tomorrow, how they fare against the Bears defense. But I'm probably going to still be watching the offense and Caleb. So, Gary, if you want to track all that, Josh Allen, all due respect to Tua Tagovailoa, Josh Allen's a different animal. So that is going to be a good test for this Bears defense because it's been a good camp for the defense, in my opinion, and how they fare against the Bills. I don't know how much of Josh we're going to see on Sunday. So tomorrow specifically, let's all eyes on Caleb. I get it. But tomorrow's going to tell us a lot about the D, too.
If that secondary plays as good as they did last Friday without Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson, who did not practice last Friday as well, and you saw the secondary took Tua to work. How many interceptions? Yeah. They had 3 interceptions on Tua last week, and he had only had 1 leading up to that practice. So, you have Nashawn Wright, who's been making a lot of plays. Terrell Smith is healthy again. He's been out there. And then obviously Tyreek Stevenson's been battling, but no Kyler Gordon, no Jalen Johnson. If they show up the same way they did last Friday, tomorrow against Josh Allen, then you're going to feel real good about this secondary for the regular season because Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon will eventually return. And that just shows you how deep this secondary can be. But I have a feeling tomorrow they're going to be tested in some different ways.
All right. Well, fun show today. Appreciate Johnsy joining us. Appreciate, Greg, all your insight from camp today as I was unable to attend. I'm planning on being there tomorrow, though. Bills, Bears. It'll be fun. Looking forward to it. So I'll see you there tomorrow. Steven's going to be out there tomorrow, too.
Is he? Oh, boy.
Yeah, he's sneaking out there. He's gonna be there. So we'll have tomorrow's show will be at 5 p.m. By the way, 5 p.m. show tomorrow. We're gonna get a little bit of extra time so we can digest everything after practice. We might even hear from Mitch Trubisky actually. So I'm kind of hoping we do. Might bring some closure to that era a little bit. And if there's anything interesting there, we'll bring it to you on this show. But of course, it'll be mostly about what we see between the Bears and Bills in practice. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Become a diehard. We appreciate each and every one of you. We will be back tomorrow after the Bears and Bills joint practice. Talk to you then.
We all silly like the mayor.